Well, guys, it's June, so you know what that means. It's the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, or as corporations like to put it, Alphabet Month. And I'm pretty sure y'all know what I mean when I say Alphabet Month. You see, when I said earlier about the Sacred Heart of Jesus, I did some more research into what that symbol means, and what I got from my research was it's supposed to be a symbol that represents God's love for humanity, his self-sacrificial love for us, that he would lay down his own life for us, that he would humble himself to be with us. It's funny how greatly that contrasts pride, which a lot of corporations and individuals will be celebrating this month, or the time I'm recording this have already celebrated, because it's near the end of June right now. So it's funny how greatly the Sacred Heart of Jesus contrasts with pride. And honestly, we need to retake June as the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which is a symbol of great humility and great love on God's end to us. So, that's something us Christians need to recognize. And something else too, during Alphabet Month, or Pride Month, I'll just say Pride Month, a lot of corporations and individuals will use the pride symbol. And, Christians have had a lot taken from them in the past several decades. They've had mainstream institutions, mainstream universities, mainstream schools, mainstream media, all used to be Christian organizations, which, let me just say, back then there was still degeneracy back then. I'm not going to be one of those people that try to act like those were perfect times. Every time had their own sin struggle. But these organizations used to be Christian, but they got taken over by leftists and secularists. And the rainbow used to also be a Christian symbol of God's promise to Noah. But, as you know, that's also been stolen from Christendom. And honestly, we need to take that back too. The beautiful rainbow, a beautiful sign of God's promise to us. And just some things I thought I should point out about Pride Month. Now, I thought it would be useful. I've already made an Instagram post about all this, but I thought it might be useful to tell you guys why you shouldn't celebrate Pride this month, or any time of year, actually, of how Pride isn't good for you, and why you shouldn't celebrate Pride, and how you shouldn't live with Pride this month, or any time of year. First, you see, the first thing I want to point out of why you shouldn't celebrate Pride this month is in Proverbs 16:18. I'll put the verse up on the screen. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but it says pride comes before the fall. And we see that throughout history, and you may experience this in your own life or seen it happen in action, where pride came before the fall. And a good example that I think we can draw from is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, there's quite a lot of history that goes behind all this, but basically, Napoleon, by the year of 1812, had a huge army. It was massive, and he was getting ready to invade Russia. So basically, the invasion started in June. He set out in June, and he thought he would get it over with in time. He thought that he could get this invasion over with by winter, and he started in June. Thought I could get it done by winter. Well, things lasted longer than he expected, and he ended up staying throughout the winter. And since he didn't adequately prepare for winter, a lot of his men died as a result, and it weakened his army since he didn't properly prepare for the winter. We see here in this historical example that Napoleon's own pride of overestimating that he thought he was so great that he could get it all done before winter. He could get his invasion done before winter. So he didn't properly prepare. See that his pride eventually led him to his downfall, because that crushing defeat by Russia eventually was a huge factor that led to his downfall and the downfall of his empire. Another reason why we shouldn't celebrate Pride this month or any time of year is in Galatians 16:14, when Paul says, "May I never boast in anything but Christ." Of course, I'm paraphrasing with the verse up on the screen right here, but basically, the context behind this verse is that people in that church during that time were boasting in their circumcision, and Paul makes it clear in the verse after that, verse 15, that it doesn't matter if you're circumcised or not. The only thing that matters is the new creation and the work that God's done in your life, and ultimately, what God did for us. So I think that this general principle can still be applied today about not boasting. Back then it was in their circumcision, but now it may be in gender identity, in our own politics, in our own identity, maybe in our own deeds, our own good deeds. Which, let me just say, it's complete. I think it's fine, not only fine, but mandatory for Christians to do good deeds. I'm not saying that good deeds save you, but the deeds show that you've been saved. I just thought I should point that out real quick. A lot of people just have this attitude of, well, I got saved and that's all I need to do. I got saved and I can do whatever I want before I die and go to heaven. Christianity is more than just a get out of hell free card. It's a lifestyle. But I just thought I should point that out. So back what I was saying, sometimes we might find our own identity in that, in the good deeds, even though they're good. It's not good to find our identity in those, because we still do bad. And oftentimes we do more bad than good. And that's just a part of our human nature. That's why we need God's forgiveness. So, like Paul said, let us not boast in our circumcision, which for us that may mean something else, like our own good deeds, our own identity, anything like that. That's not Christ. Now that I've given you some reasons of why you shouldn't celebrate Pride this month or any time of year, I think it's important to give some next steps, because a lot of times we hear bad news without having a way to go forward, without having a way to move on, have a better walk with God, despite the bad news that we receive. The question is, now that I've given you all these reasons why you shouldn't celebrate Pride during June or any time of year, I think it's important to give some next steps. Some next steps to help you grow, to help you cut out pride more in your life and follow God more. And I think the best way to counteract pride is to exercise the opposite of it, which is humility. James 4:10 says that if you humble yourself before the Lord, then He will exalt you. So, best way to counteract pride is to practice more humility. Now, what that looks like in your specific life, I don't really know. So I think the best way to figure out your specific next steps in your own life is to talk with your local pastor at your church and to find out some practical next steps, because I can only get you so far. I don't know you personally. I'm just talking to you through the screen right now. I can't really look at your life and help you out, specifically, unless you message me on Instagram. But even then, I recommend you talk to a pastor of your local church, because pastors are trained to help you out. I'm just a kid. I'll admit, I could give you good advice, but I'm still learning myself. I'll admit that. I'm learning more every day. So that's why I recommend you talk to a local pastor of yours. I recommend you get help in that way. Especially all I got for today's video. I just think, let me just point something out here. I don't hate people who celebrate Pride Month. I don't hate gay people or anything like that. I try to love all people. But the modern world defines love in a way that's not love. The modern world tries to treat love like it's a feeling, like you gotta affirm everything that the other person does in their life. And this logic quickly falls apart when you take into account, let's just say, an alcoholic family member, a friend who's addicted to gambling. He's wasting all of his money. Or if there's a friend of yours who's addicted to watching bad stuff online. We can admit that stuff's bad. You still love the person, but you condemn the actions. It's kind of like what God does with us. He loves the sinner but hates the sin. We have to tell them why their actions are wrong and help them out, offer them help to move forward in that regard, whatever their certain sin struggle might be. So I don't hate gay people or anything like that. I don't hate people who celebrate Pride Month, but I hope to lead people in the right direction. And I think the world nowadays, especially, needs more humility and less pride. Everyone thinks they're at the center of all creation, like they're the most important guy or girl out there. Humble yourself. Care for others. And talk to your local pastor and how you can grow in humility in your own certain life. Be more humble and be less prideful. I love y'all. Have a good day.